Welcome to my studio. Today I'm just going to show you a bit of my process as an artist and how I create my paintings. It's just one day in the studio. Obviously these paintings take weeks and weeks and weeks, but this is just one day of work and hopefully you find it interesting. So I started on these panels which I worked on a couple of weeks ago, so they've already got several layers of acrylic paint and ink and pastel on them. First job of the day was to sand back the panels using an electric sander with some fine sandpaper. The reason I sand the panels is to try and create as much texture as possible through the layers. I do lots of layers of paint and ink and then sand them back, and then some more layers and sand them back. And I also use collage with pages from horror novels like Dracula, etc. And I want that text to peer through in little areas. So sanding back like this with a fine sandpaper helps to bring through some of those extra details, and it creates a really nice, interesting painting. I use wood panels, so it means you can just sand as much as you like without having to worry about destroying it, which I have accidentally destroyed things in the past when I've been working on canvas. So I found that wood is definitely the best surface for this method and works really well for me. Okay, so these are the paintings after I've just done the first sand. Lots of nice texture. Obviously the ones we've got book pages underneath, they've all come through nicely. This one had quite a thick lump of paint on it and it's just ripped it off, which in some areas can look a bit cracked, but I think if I keep going back over it a little bit more, it won't look too bad. This one's come through nicely, but yeah, I like all the textures on this one, which hasn't got book pages on it. It's still got some nice textures. I think I do prefer the ones with the collage. They just have a nice texture about them. More interesting. On to the next stage. So here I'm using some Brusho ink. It comes in powder form and you mix it with water. So I'm just painting it on the panels to try and get some nice drips running down the panels. Here I'm trying to flick some powdered ink onto the panel to try and get some interesting textures, but you can't really see it, but it has come up a little bit. So next I'm working on top with some acrylic paint. I'm using quite light colours because the last layers, as you can see, were quite dark, so I want to create that contrast. I'm putting this paint on quite thinly with lots of water, so again you can still see some of the textures and the layers coming through underneath. Next I'm just using some kitchen roll just to dab back on some of that paint, pull it away from the surface and just again creating more texture and showing up some of the layers underneath again. Then I pick up another tool that I've got, I think it's some sort of scraper. But anyway, I love this tool, it makes the nicest textures and I just scrape it across the panel. Any wet paint it'll pull through, and also if you can put paint on it and scrape it down the panels and it'll just give a really, really nice texture. I use this one a lot. And then I do all the same processes again on the big panel, starting with the paintbrush, the kitchen roll and the scraper, and spraying lots of water as well just to help with the texture. And lastly, I go in with some different materials. I've got some charcoal, some soft pastel and some oil pastel, same sort of palette of colours, but I do this just to add some extra interest and different textures. So I was quite happy with the initial layers that I'd created, so I thought it was time to try start drawing in some composition for my crows. So what I do is I find some imagery of some shapes that I like, and then I just quickly sort of sketch those shapes in. So you can't really see it here because it's a very light pencil, but I can see it for when I want to obviously paint over it. So the next stage is where I start blocking out the shapes of the crows, and this is mainly so I can see the composition, see if I like it, and then go from there, adding on the detail and then working over the paintings layer by layer. But this is just the start of creating that final piece. At this stage I do sometimes start to add some detail into the crow's features, but that doesn't mean that they'll necessarily stay. I do like to be very flexible with my painting process, and this may get completely sanded out, it may get painted over and I may need to do it again, or I might just completely change the crow. So I like to just see what happens and just go with the flow. So after today, we've made some good progress. We've got the start of something on this one, which I'm liking. Little crow in the corner on this one. Start of a big crow on this one. Big band wings, which I'll come back to. Nothing on this one yet. And nothing on this one yet. Still need to decide what I want to do with those. But yeah, so far, so good. Well, I hope you found that interesting. Please comment, like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll be with you again soon with some more content.